Hey all, and welcome to this week's Sunday market outlook. So, guys, we're going to go right into it, and we're going to start off with the dollar index. And as you guys can see, we had a relatively good week in terms of dollar strength. And if I just jump over to the weekly time frame, you guys can see that we had a beautiful close of the hammer 2 weeks ago over here on this very nice key support level at 96.50, and last week we had a relatively good bullish run running all the way to the 50% retracement. Now if we go over into the daily time frame, what we can see is that there's no sign of the market actually potentially wanting to slow down around this region over here. And if I also consult with the momentum that I find on my other screens, I find that we still have a ton of positive momentum in the background, which suggests that we could see the price running all the way up to 98.60. And so this is what I'm forecasting with regards to the dollar index. So with that being said, guys, let's jump over to our next pair. Okay, so our next pair is going to be the Australian dollar US dollar. And as you guys can see, we had a relatively bearish week as it relates to the Australian dollar US dollar, with a very nice shooting star forming over here. Now, one can argue that this is but just another candlestick forming in the middle of nowhere, but I would argue that we just coming off this key resistance level at 0.7 thousand, as well as rejecting this moving average over here, forming a beautiful shooting star. That obviously suggests that we've rejected dynamic resistance as well as horizontal resistance, and the entire candlestick pattern could be that of a evening star formation. Now that is debatable, but it doesn't remove the fact that there is a very strong bearish signal as it relates to this particular market setup. Not only that, we also in this semi expanding ascending channel over here, with price gradually making its way down. Now this is where I would like to see a very strong break to the downside, but what I could potentially see is the market wanting to kind of just gradually make its way to the bottom of this upward sloping trend line, and that could mean that we could get another pullback a little bit, and then go further to the downside. Alternatively, what we can see is the market forming the candle tomorrow, just closing, smashing right through this upward sloping trend line and even beyond this horizontal support level. Now, I am forecasting that we could see 66.50 as the next key support level. Now, I am forecasting that we could see 66.50 as it lines up very nicely with this moving average over here. But not only that, previously this was a very significant level in the past as well. So if we are going to move down and the market wants to kind of find a bit of support to move further up, I would look at this level to be the level that I'll target, which is 66.50. But that's not ruling out the fact that the market has yet to test this upward sloping trend line for the third time. Now, if we get to the bottom of the upward sloping trend line and the market gives us a signal to reverse, I will still be rather hesitant. But what I would look for is the market to kind of trickle its way down to here, make its way up, and actually form a double top on the daily time frame, which increases the probability of the market actually wanting to move all the way to our 66.50 support level. So that's my thoughts on the Australian dollar US dollar for now. Let's jump over to our next pair. Okay, guys, so our next pair is going to be the euro dollar. Now, if you guys notice that 1350 has been a strong resistance level, and just 2 weeks ago, we saw the market giving us a beautiful rejection of this level. And this week, we saw a bit of a pullback to test the center of this candlestick over here. After rejecting that, we saw a very strong bearish run, which actually formed in and of itself another bearish shooting star. So we actually have this very nice sign of exhaustion over here on the weekly time frame, along with this bearish shooting star found on the weekly time frame, rejecting the 1350 resistance level, which ultimately suggests that there's a lot of movement to the downside in the coming weeks. Now, obviously we're looking at this from the weekly perspective, and I would argue that we could see the price running all the way to 1.1020, and this is actually going to be the target that I see the market running towards. So what I would like to see is the following. I think that the market could use this as an opportunity to run all the way down to this key support level over here, which was previously resistance at 1130, and we could see a bit of a pullback. Okay, now I'm not necessarily too sure how deep the pullback might be, and bear in mind I can't necessarily draw in the fib to measure this, purely because of the fact that we haven't yet seen the market finding its bottom. So until the market kind of bottoms out over here, that's going to be where I can draw in my fib and get a rough idea as to how deep the retracement will be to actually see the market running further to the downside. So I'm definitely keeping my eye out for a pullback as it relates to this particular run over here. Um, but the pullback could potentially be found on the intraday time frame. So if we go over into the 4 hourlies, what you guys can see is that the market has given us a nice break of these moving averages over here, and we're starting to see the 4 hour 50 kind of rolling its kind of rolling over as well, and using this 200 period moving average as well as dynamic, using this 200 EMA as dynamic resistance. So with all that being said, guys, I see the market wanting to potentially come down like that. And again, one of the things I wanted to point out is that we never really had a test of this EMA over here. So we could see the market kind of rolling over a little bit here in terms of the EMA. And then come and have the market kind of pull back a bit to test it as dynamic resistance, and that will be the key to seeing the price run all the way to 1020. So that's my idea with regards to the euro dollar, but it's still up for debate because we have to wait and see how does the market respond to this level over here. Alternatively, you can just see a massive smash all the way to the downside, testing this key support level over here, and that's going to be where we will end up to potentially change our bias depending, because we still have a lot of weekly positive momentum, but in terms of the daily we see that there's a lot of negative momentum in the short term. So I wouldn't be surprised if the market was just to kind of give us a solid break of this without any real pullbacks. But what I am looking for is potentially having the market come to test this level of a pullback and then kind of give us that run to the downside. So that's the euro dollar. Let's go ahead and jump over to our next pair. Okay, guys, so our next pair is going to be the pound dollar. And as you guys can see, we had a very, very nice rejection of the 2750 resistance level. And now we're starting to have some major runs to the downside. With that being said, if we jump over into the daily time frame, unlike the euro, the pound did give us that retracement level over here, where we had a beautiful rejection of this moving average as well as that retracement level in the form of this shooting star over here, which led the price to really just smash further to the downside. Now, bear in mind that there's no levels of support beyond this one over here. So you could argue that this could be a support level. I wouldn't rule that out. But in terms of where the market is and where the market is headed, there's nothing keeping the market from just kind of dropping further. And so the market is obviously going to opt for the path of least resistance. And as a result of that, I can kind of just see the market making its way further and further down to potentially test 2077 as a first level of support, but ultimately running potentially all the way down to 1.20, which is very, very far down from where it is. Uh, all these lows over here, but at the end of the day, we still have to wait and see how does the market respond to this particular structure over here. As it stands, I don't see how we can have a reversal at this point in time. Reason being is we don't have momentum on our side, and we also don't have any candlestick formation, nor do we have exhaustion or deceleration. And so if it is that we have a bullish engulfing candlestick pattern forming over here, that is definitely not off the card. It's definitely a possibility. But as it stands, I mean, based on what we have, the market does have the capacity to run further down. So that's the pound dollar. Let's jump over to the dollar CAD. Okay, guys, so here we have the dollar CAD, and this has been a very interesting pair. Now, the question is, do we have the potential to do a complete reversal to see the market even break these highs over here? Now, that is still up for debate. What I can say is that as it stands, uh, and we go over into the daily time frame, what we can see is the market definitely having the potential to test 1.3800, and the reason being is because we broke this moving average over here with such force. We had a pullback, and with that pullback, now we could see the market running towards its first level of resistance or this key resistance zone, which lines up very nicely with the overall 38.2 fib retracement. Now, I could see the market kind of pushing its way further up in this fashion, purely because we have positive momentum in the background, especially on the daily time frame. And also, if we were to go ahead and take our fib and measure from our swing low to our most recent swing high, that's a beautiful 50% fib retracement. And the market has the capacity to run further up. So one of the things I looked at, and I didn't really go into it with too much depth, but if one was to take a position with this particular setup. Obviously, our stop loss is going to be below over here. So if I go ahead and select the long position, what you can do is you can opt for a pending order where you could see the market wanting to break these highs over here. Now, I understand that in order for the market to have a confirmed break, it has to break above this wick over here. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that we can have a successful break. In other words, not a test above this level, but actually a break of this level. And what we can do is we can pull our stop loss just like about 160. If we can make a 160, and if we were to put it on our, if we were to put it on our first target level, then that's a relatively good 1:1 position. So the question is, how much risk are you taking with this trade? Now, bear in mind, guys, that I'm putting it below the daily low, okay? And because I'm putting it below the daily low, it has a greater chance of actually running further up based on the fact that we have the trend, we have the pullback, and so now we're just looking for the extension. So if I go into the intraday time frames, we could potentially kind of refine our entry even more by the fact that we have this very nice uh, flag, this bullish flag pole over here. And if we go into the hourly time frame, we could break it down even more and kind of just see once the market breaks out of this choppiness, what's it going to do. So based on the overall flag, which is a bullish flag, and based on the fact that our stop loss is below these lows over here, and considering the fact that we have positive momentum in the background, suggests that we could take a 1:1 and see the market running all the way up. Uh, and that's just a case of waiting and seeing. You know, it's not a guarantee, but there's definitely some potential as it relates to the USD CAD. So I'm definitely keeping an eye on this particular pair. But for now, I'm not necessarily going to go over to the yen. In fact, what I will do is I'll in the same breath, I'm actually going to jump over to the dollar yen just to show you guys that I'm not even remotely interested in what's happening here because it's just completely choppy, and I'm not remotely interested in this space. So I think I'll park our weekly market outlook there on the euro on the dollar CAD, and we'll kind of break it forward from there. So guys, I really hope that this made sense. I really hope that there was value added. I know we kind of ran through it a bit faster, but I felt that I don't want to linger on too long on a particular pair when it's just about getting the information out there and obviously giving you guys the opportunity to determine what value you want to take out of it. And bear in mind that this is but just my opinion. Furthermore, guys, I trust that you're all going to have an awesome week ahead, a week filled with all kinds of profits. And obviously, I trust that you had a brilliant weekend as well. For the most part, I hope that you guys are enjoying the content that we're uploading, and if you haven't subscribed, considering subscribing, and if you find that you enjoy the content that we're uploading, there is a notification bell that you can click, and that will notify you of any content that we upload. And we load content up roughly about 3 times a week, so you guys will be notified every time we upload new content. For those of you that thinks that this particular video will be of value to someone else, consider sharing it and encourage them to like it if they do like the content. For the most part, have a brilliant week forward. Have a profitable week forward. Guys, I look forward to chatting to you all soon. But up until then, cheers and bye for now.